Welcome back to Division One Rejects, joined again today by Blaze Lauer and Drew Carpenter. This is Kobe Manzo, the host, and we have two great guests today, arguably the best that we've had so far. So very excited about this episode. I know both of you are as well. First, we'll be joined by Zach Line, who played 7 years in the NFL as a fullback for the Minnesota Vikings, and then the second half of his career was spent with the New Orleans Saints. Later, we will talk to Mike Sullivan, the former sports radio personality from 97.1, who has started his own new business venture, so stay tuned to hear about that.
Unlike Zach Line, he's a D1 reject.
Yeah, that's true. So he really fit in the podcast, and he did say in the conversation that he felt like this was the perfect podcast for him. So, hey, I appreciate that. But as far as the content goes in today's episode, we will have a preview of the NFL Divisional Round games this weekend, and then we'll talk about the final college football top 25 rankings, where all the teams square up or match up after that national championship game. Talk about our hopes for a college football national playoff expansion to include more teams, potentially some group of 5 teams in there. And we'll finish off the episode with game picks for this weekend's game. Now, I do want to remind you guys, for all of our new listeners or watchers on YouTube, if you are watching the podcast on YouTube, go into the description or use the red little scroll bar at the bottom of the video, and there are timestamps. So you can go throughout the episode and select which conversation or which part of the material that you would like to listen to. So, like I said, our podcast is available, video version on YouTube. Otherwise, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get into that first conversation with Zach Line. Our first guest on today's episode played his high school days at Oxford High School here in Oakland County before heading off to SMU, where he rushed for over 4,000 yards in his career. He was picked up as an undrafted free agent by the Minnesota Vikings in 2013, but spent the second half of his 7-year career with the New Orleans Saints. Now he's back in Oxford as the head coach for the Wildcats. It's Zach Line. How's it going?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing really well. Appreciate you coming on the podcast today. Thank you for taking a little bit of time.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I just went through, the whole career story right there, and it really is like something out of a book or a commercial or something. It's all come full circle for you to end up back in Oxford, and of course, your timing. Couldn't have picked a better or worse, depending on how you look at it, but come back and basically you're now dealing with the middle of a pandemic and trying to coach in a high school season when you don't have much, if at all, coaching experience. What has that been like for you?
I would say when you don't know any better, it's probably the best year to come in, because I didn't know, you don't know what's right, what's wrong. So, what better way to not have any thoughts or system in place as a coach that you're missing. So everything's been kind of learned on the fly, and you're trying to do things that you think as a player you'd want to do in a pandemic, and I think that's one of the advantages that I bring is I know how these guys feel right now, and I know how they felt going through this, and it was kind of it was definitely a weird season, but I was proud of the way they worked, and we kind of installed an offense during the season.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And we talked to my high school coach at Lake Orion, John Blackstock. I don't know if you've had the chance to meet him yet, but okay, awesome. But he was talking about how for him and a lot of other coaches, it's adapt or die basically throughout this season. But like you said, you don't know what quote unquote normal is. Like, you're coming into this position, and that's why I think that unique perspective that you bring about being the player and that guy, and you talk about players coach, like our guy Antoine at Northwood. Sure. But I think that's the unique perspective that you bring to those guys. And I think outside of obviously your great career that you've had and the ties to Oxford, I think that's what made you a perfect hire for Oxford. So moving on, going into this next season, what are some goals? Maybe not like, okay, go win the conference or win this, but what are some goals that you have for your guys over there?
Well, obviously we want to put together, I think first of all for us is I want to have a great training camp. That was one I'm really looking forward to having, because that's where you really start to develop players. And, as a coach, that's my end goal. I want to see these guys improve and hopefully take that next step to playing college football or whatever their dreams may be. But that's where me as a coach, I get the most satisfaction as I see, you finally see the linemen picking up the blocking schemes, because it's all new. We changed the offense, we changed a lot of the defense. So when you finally see that come to fruition, a player has that aha moment where, oh, that makes sense now, because you feel it. And once you get there, the fun part about it as a coach is all of a sudden you start getting peer coaches where, one lineman's teaching another, and sometimes that's better than a coach. So that's my favorite. As far as a team goal this year, I would definitely say you want to win the conference. That's where you got to start. I know everybody says win state, but you got to You got to win the first one, second one, third one, win the conference, and then you go from there. So obviously you can't look past week one, but winning the conference is, I think, an attainable goal for us.
Especially in the OAA where you've got all this great competition and all these teams. If you win there, you've got a great chance to go pretty far there. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I think you look at the playoffs right now, you still have Oak Park in the hunt. You still have –
yeah, that's unreal too, by the way, that the regular season that they had, and they get back a couple key contributors.
For sure. I think they're one of those teams that was hurt by COVID and a few other things. I know they had an injury to one of their key players, but I think they had 9 or 10 guys out for a while with COVID, and they got them all back when they played us. And they're a good team. They're athletic. They're coached well, and I think that can be said about every team in the OAA right now as a whole, but especially the Red. But that's where you want to compete. You don't want to limp your way to the playoffs and get smashed. So you might as well play these teams and get a taste for what's going to be like at that level.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. And so, Coach, before we get going into your NFL career, obviously you can't go straight out of high school to the NFL. It's not allowed. So what was So what was recruiting like for you? Obviously, we all know you ended up at SMU and had a great career there. But before that, coming out of high school, what were the other schools, and where were you looking at?
I was I've been a Michigan State fan my whole life, so I wanted to go to Michigan State. And I had, back then it was Dan Enos was one of the coaches there. He came and saw me at Oxford, and that was probably the first time I thought I could play at the next level. I think one of the attributes that suited me well is I just never looked ahead. That was even in college. I just always played. We didn't have a lot of guys go. We had Guy Check, we've had Rayner, but those are kind of like one-offs. It's not like we're West Bloomfield or Muskegon on the west side of the state who has 11 D1 players every year, and you expect to go play D1 football.
Mm-hmm.
I just played football and I loved it, and coaches they find you and things just work out because the community sees you, and that's really what happened for me. Was I wasn't getting a lot of the offers. I had the attention, all the attention in the world. I feel like every day in class I was getting called out to go see a coach, whether it was Northwood or it was Michigan State or it was Central or Eastern. Every single day. So, I thought things were going well, and I was going to their camps, and they were bringing me in every weekend. But at the end of the day, they extended preferred walk-ons to most of those. And then, again, that's where you build you build this ID or this resume through people that are watching you. And there's always people watching. And Bill Keenest sent my film to June Jones in Hawaii, and June offered me the next day from Hawaii. And a week later said, hold up, we're moving, just hold tight, and then offered me from SMU. So at the end of the day, I had 2 offers. I had one from Hawaii and one from SMU, and I chose to go to SMU.
There you go. That's kind of an interesting little...
pick your poison. Right there. It's 2 great places to go.
That's pretty awesome, dude. I love that. We had Rayner on the show a couple weeks ago, and then Guychuck, obviously, with Blazin. He's coaching the O-line over there at Lake Orion. I think he's still there, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still there. So he's an interesting guy in himself. Love that dude. But
first off, obviously, we know that he was undrafted. One thing Coach Rayner did flex is that he was drafted out of Oxford, and you may have had a longer, more successful career, but he wanted to let us know that he was drafted. He got that phone call.
That would have been an awesome experience. But let's talk. I know you started off with the Vikings, but kind of wanted to focus on these Saints here, as they're still in contention for the big picture here as we head to this divisional round of the playoffs. Big win for them over the Bears this weekend, but now they have Tom Brady and the Bucs for the 3rd time this year, them being in the NFC South. You always hear it's hard to beat a team twice, and we've seen that so many times, but the last time they played, they blew them out by 35 points. What do you expect from these guys heading into the divisional round?
It's hard for both sides, but I think Sean is one of the best game planners that I've ever seen. And I feel like a lot of times when you get the new team or an unfamiliar team, he can get outside of what we do sometimes in the game plan. Whereas when he's playing a divisional opponent, he knows the sauce, the secret to success against these guys. He knows their lineup so well. So, I think it's going to be a lot of the same this week as far as that game plan goes. I don't think it's going to be a real close game, but again, you got Tom Brady as the wild card. So
yeah. And they were tweeting out between Tom and Drew that the game should probably be held on like the History Channel with the 2 guys with some big old beards and all that.
Some aging right there.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was pretty awesome. But I mean, right there, like last year was supposed to be the last year for Drew Brees, but nobody can blame him for wanting to end on that outcome. Their game against the Rams, the NFC Championship.
And the Vikings.
And then the Vikings before that. So, will Drew be done after this year now if they don't finally make that run to the Super Bowl? What do you think?
I'm not sure. I think as a competitor, and I know he is the question becomes, is this worth it anymore? Where, I'm starting to get hit a little bit. I had 11 broken ribs.
Yeah.
That's where it starts not becoming fun anymore. And there's a point where you, as a competitor, say, I'm not playing now, or he is playing now, but at some point my body's not going to live up to the expectations of my mind. That's kind of where I was in my career. Was I can't match what I want to do in my mind and what I know I can do with where my knee's at or where my certain injuries are at. And that's, I've heard that from a lot of players. It's just frustrating when you get to that age and, things start breaking a little bit easier, but I don't know. I mean, he's still balling and he can still play
no
the ball.
doubt. Yeah.
So, I feel like he is going to be done, and I don't have anything behind that. No, there's no sources here, but I am hoping he can go out with another Super Bowl ring.
I'm going to go with you there. I think that would be incredible to see them.
Little Peyton Manning right off into the sunset.
That would be awesome, yeah. But I don't think he'd be carried by his defense, though.
No.
That's a little bit of the difference there. But go ahead, Blaze. You got something?
All right.
Yeah,
Drew,
so
I know your brother's not going to be happy about my
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think Brady's got the same level of optimism for Drew Brees going into this weekend as you do.
Yeah, right.
He's been talking about it.
Jesus.
Well, I know there's a Bill Parcells quote somewhere about beating a team twice and having to play them again. I think if you beat a team twice, it just confirms that you can beat them a third time. I think that's what it was.
I mean, why, like you said, why reinvent yourself if you've already seen the success 2 times?
I'm pretty sure you were on the last team to beat a team 3 times when you beat Cam in the first round of the playoffs.
Right. No, I believe I heard that from Sean.
Yeah.
I think that was he was a Parcells
Southern
guy,
Sports Center today.
Zimmer and Sean are both Parcells guys, so we constantly get the quotes from him.
That's awesome. Yeah. You got someplace?
Yeah, anyway, while we're on the topic of Drew Brees here.
Anyway.
I play quarterback myself, so, and I have a lot of family ties to Purdue, so, I hear a lot about Drew Brees around the house. And one thing I noticed about him is that his warm-up regiment and everything like that is really high level. So I just wanted to ask you, what's it like playing with him and seeing him every day, not even, in practice, not on game day and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, Drew's got a championship-style mentality, I guess you could say. It's Monday through Sunday. It's every day of the week. He's got his routine. And I know he's been through it with guys in the news before, so I'm sure that's out there what his actual routine is. And a lot of guys will tell you this is what I do, but they don't really do that. I don't know if Cam
Cam's little morning routine.
Whatever.
The TB12 method.
He ain't buying it. He ain't buying it.
No way.
Not buying it. But I know Drew's doing whatever he's saying he's doing because I've seen it in action. If I'm walking into the training room at this time, I know he's going to be in there getting his shoulder stretch, and he is every single day. And we know exactly what time he's going to be on the field. So that guy is devoted to his craft, and that's why it's not work for him. That's why it's not something that he's trudging through or it's hard to do for him. He just loves it. So, and that's hard. That takes a lot of character to consistently be that guy for 20 years. So
yeah,
for sure,
it's impressive, and that just speaks to the culture for the Saints. You as a player, when you see that, and when I was your 5, 6, and 7 with him, you want to live up to that. So you don't want to let that guy down. And then you see Sean Payton, who's putting in the same amount of work, and those guys' preparation and attention to detail is everything. So if you're not on your stuff, you're not going to last long with the Saints. And there's not a lot of finger pointing. It's just, hey, how can we win games? That's all we want to do here. Just a championship culture.
I love that. And that's a unique perspective too, is how could I fail and let these guys down? They've already put in all their work. I got to be to that same standard. So he does that, obviously that's intentional, but he just raises the effort and all the productivity from all the guys around him. But even if this isn't his last year, there's no doubt he'll be out of the league in the near future. So I want to talk about the future of the quarterback position for the Saints. Now, we've seen Peyton endorse Taysom Hill as a franchise quarterback. Multiple times he's come out and he's been very confident. And we've seen him kind of start to face him into the scheme here. He's caught passes and done all of the things that the Swiss Army knife has done.
The kid that can do everything at recess, according to Nate Burleson.
Yes, the kid that can do everything. I love that. But the addition of Jameis Winston has made things interesting in New Orleans. So I'd love to hear your take on that situation.
Yeah, I've never played with Jameis. Obviously, I played against him many times, but I played with Taysom, and he's fortunate to come under Drew and that same regiment that I just talked about. Taysom has followed him every single day, and why wouldn't you? If you're coming in as a young guy trying to learn the quarterback position, you have a quarterback above you that's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's going to, he's done all these things. So Taysom's done the right things in order to set himself up for a lengthy career. And I'm assuming, a starting quarterback role. And
good.
He's fortunate to have that. He is smart that he took advantage of that. And some guys wouldn't. Some guys would have pride and say, "Nah, I'm going to do it my way." But he followed the steps of the GOAT.
I love that. Yeah, and the Mormon Missile. He's the man. He does it all. I'm huge Taysom Hill fan, so I'd love to hear that. I think that he definitely could have a future there. Like you said, he seems to have done all the right things, and he's a guy too. When he goes out there and he's playing special teams or he's catching passes, like, how do you not want to play with a guy like that? That's just got to bring all those guys together and really, make them a unit. But go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, so obviously Sean Payton's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Drew Brees is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about someone who may not be in the Hall of Fame, but they're off to the right start. Kevin Stefanski out in Cleveland. You had the chance to get to know him, obviously, because my dad told me that he was texting you about it when we went to the Browns game. How have you seen him progress through this year? Obviously, he wasn't able to coach in the playoff game, but how have you seen his progress throughout the season?
That's obviously I know that you're a Baker Mayfield fan.
Yes, so that's where I was kind of getting at.
Yeah. No, I that's one of those offenses that I enjoy watching because they have a great run game. That's impressive to watch. It's not easy. Running the ball takes 11 guys. So
especially against Pittsburgh's defense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then dialing it up with a lot of the play action they have it's fun to watch. They're rolling. I'm rooting for the Browns this weekend as well. I don't think they're going to get clapped.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
So Stefanski, I had him as a running back coach when I was in Minnesota, and his brain is like a computer, so he can just evaluate things on as he's going. Because he wasn't a running back coach; he was, I think, an assistant quarterback coach the year before. And then our running back coach left, so he took over running backs, and then he moved to a different spot. So he's been basically every spot, I think, on the offense that you can be as an assistant or as a position coach. So then I think the transition to him being the OC in Minnesota wasn't very hard. And then obviously he got to learn under Zimmer, and he was there with Norv Turner, and then he was there with Pat Shurmur. So he's got a lot of guys that have been head coaches before around him. And I think he's done a good job of being himself still because he is a fun coach. He is a player's coach where he's relatable, and he cares about you. You can tell that when you ask about, what's going on outside of football. And those are the things you like as a player. Is the coach is a little bit more invested in you as a person, not just as a hey, employee number 42. You got to do this. He wants to learn about Zach and what's going on in his life.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
And you bring up that he was a running back coach. Let's talk about the running back rooms you've been a part of. Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, Adrian Peterson. I mean, those are that's like a fantasy team right there. If you put it up in a draft, team. Who has been that one guy to where you look at it and you're like, wow, he was good.
Now I know you guys are going to be a little, I guess, surprised, but I was always a hockey guy, right? So I never really cared. If you ask me NFL history or early on in my career, I have no idea what that is. Well, but I can tell you, when I was at the draft, or who do you model your game after? I'm like, Steve Eisman. They're like, Steve Eisman, he plays hockey. I'm like, I know, but he's a blue-collar worker, and he leads by example. That's what I want to do. They're like, okay,
like that
makes sense. We've never heard that one. But then the only time I was starstruck was I finally got into the Vikings and was in training camp. I looked behind me, and Adrian Peterson was standing behind me. I'm like, oh, it was like a aha moment. This is real. And then I'm pretty sure it was a draw play, and I took my draw step, and he just ran me over. And he yelled at me for not going. I'm like, it's a draw. But in his mind, there is no draw. It's just everything's a lead.
Just go.
Everything's a run through the guy's face with that guy.
All day, man. All day. That is awesome. I love that, man. But back to your Saints here for one last piece. I wanted to say, let's say they advance out of that divisional round and they take down Tampa for the third time this year. They got to travel to Green Bay because although
if they win, we got to.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said. If say they do, so then they got to.
Green Bay wins too.
Oh yeah, that's true. They have the Rams.
Yeah.
So could be an interesting game. But the NFC right now is through Green Bay. But obviously, if they do lose, then it's going to be through
a little
the Saints.
Rams Saints rematch. I'm sure that'd be a lot of blood there
in New Orleans. Yeah. So that would be interesting. But
so that's how I have it.
Go ahead.
Drawn up as Rams coming to New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah. Redemption. I like that right there.
Yeah, well, we had Mike Sullivan on. We'll talk to him later in the episode as we record this, but he picked Green Bay for the Super Bowl favorite. So that's kind of interesting.
I think Green Bay is an easy pick, but I also think the NFC North is down this year. So
makes sense.
That's fair.
I guess the NFC South is down a little bit as well. So it's hard to compare those two, but Green Bay's impressive. Again, another team where they have really, obviously, a good quarterback, but their play action and boot game is really impressive to watch, especially out of the gun with Aaron Rodgers. And that offense is so annoying because they catch you sleeping a lot with the hard count and rushing the ball.
And it's fun to see that because now we don't have the fans, so you can actually really hear the cadence and hear them break that down, some of the audibles and things like that on the broadcast even. Yep. So I thought that's been really interesting. But what I wanted to ask you is that even in a year where fans have been limited or even non-existent in a lot of NFL stadiums, how much of a disadvantage, I guess, well, you didn't play without fans, but in your career, how much of a disadvantage is it really to travel and go play on somebody else's turf, especially right now you're talking about in the playoffs and potentially a championship? So I wanted to see what the disadvantage of that was.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage to play at home. I mean, your routine, even just the regular season, you have your routine at home, and you get to stay home, and you get to your team hotel. Every time you go on the road, you feel like you're constantly in catch-up mode. Unless you're going to the West Coast, you arrive a couple days early so you can catch up on your hours. But
gotcha.
Anytime you're on the road, you're coming off a plane flight where you're gonna have some inflammation, some stiffness, so you're wearing your compression gear that they give you to keep that out. And then you get there, you're constantly trying to jumpstart your engine before game time. And that's why I always like when we went on the road. We had a night game because that gave me enough time to kind of get back to baseline. But even just going on the road to a hostile environment, like anybody coming to New Orleans back last year, that's a big game. We sell that place out, and Sean will ask the community to be louder. And I remember the Rams game when he said, you have to be loud all the way through the play clock because that's when they're giving their plays. And it was really fun to watch because you see Jared Goff out there holding over his ears and trying to figure out a way to hear.
That's awesome. Yeah, now he's got a broken thumb. He's trying to play with 4 fingers, but we'll see how that goes. How about the NFC South right now is kind of in an interesting position, obviously, with a couple aging quarterbacks coming out of there in Breeze and Brady.
Yeah,
but then
I feel like that division is going to be up for grabs.
Don't forget Matt Ryan.
Exactly. And so,
you never know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the answer.
And the Falcons are going to go through most likely what's going to be a rebuild, potentially, because the owner came out and said that Julio Jones and Ryan basically are on the trading block with everybody else. So now is Carolina the favorite to come out of the division? Not, maybe this year or next year, but in 3 years, are we going to see the Panthers on top of the NFC South?
And we do know that you are a big Teddy Bridgewater guy based off my brother's sources, which happens to be you.
I love Teddy. Teddy's a great quarterback, but he's a phenomenal teammate. And I do think Carolina's on a roll right now. They're going to be a good team. I don't know if Joe Brady will be there a lot longer. I think that's a guy that could be a head coach pretty soon.
Okay,
I think he's probably getting some interviews already. Same with the Saints. I know a lot of their staff right now is being looked at as potential head coaches elsewhere. A couple of their GMs are also getting looks. So there's a lot of positions available right now. And where do guys normally look when they're looking for a coach? Is the staff that have had success. So
yeah, the ones that win.
Yeah, they all want to win. Look at the Patriots staff. It's been decapitated in the last 4 or 5 years, and
seriously,
no one's really come out of there as a winner yet. But
yeah, so the Lions took about half of them. So
yeah, for sure.
So
I think
continue.
That speaks to the success Sean's had. Is guys are starting to look at a lot of Peyton's coaches.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
So, Coach, before we let you go, obviously, the first time I ever met you, like in person, or maybe the second time I asked you this question, but I just want to, so the guys can hear it. Was Atlanta and Deion Jones the toughest team to where you were like, that one's going to be a hard-hitting matchup? Because I remember you saying something about Atlanta and something about Deion Jones. Can you, go over that? Like where it was that was a big hit or something?
Deion Jones is their linebacker, and he is fast, but he's not their hitter. Safety. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Neil?
Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keanu Neal. That's who I said. That guy can hit. I remember they came to New Orleans, and I saw it was load power, and we don't run a lot of power, but when we do, a lot of times I'm on a safety or I'm on a corner, which was nice because that was most of the time the fullback you're getting the end or you're getting the Sam. But when we were on load power, you have an extra tight end there, he's going to take care of the Sam. You're going to get that safety. So I'm like, sweet. I looked up. I saw number 22 standing there. I'm like, oh, this will be an easy matchup. I went to kill him, and I almost got killed.
Man, you don't expect that. Yeah, it's a kind of a surprise.
Yeah. But. So would you say that was the most physical, like, when you're like, oh, we're playing Atlanta this week, it's about to get physical? Because I feel like there was like all those Thursday night games in Atlanta where the Saints, were like, oh, this is going to be a good game, even though the records didn't really matter. To where it's like, in the AFC North, it's the Steelers and the Ravens. The records don't matter. They're gonna try to hit people. Right.
Well, I always felt like those Thursday night games, or even any Atlanta game, was always a little bit chippy. But I think that's any rivalry. I mean, you look at Oxford or Orion, even though either of them have a down year, it's always a good game because it's just all records are out the window. But I would say, like you said, anytime we played like the Ravens or the Steelers, those are the games that I remember being most physical because I feel like they just draft big people. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That's the secret.
Their whole defense is big.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense though when you break down those rosters a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. But Coach Line, really appreciate you coming on here today. That's all we've got for you.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course. All right, you have a good one. Appreciate you.
You too. Bye.
What a conversation with Coach Line. What a great guy. What a great start to this episode.
Yeah. No, seriously. I think some people like Coach Rayner, he was around,
but the Line was very established in both the spots he was at.
Yeah, Line also went to 2 organizations with lots of success.
Winning cultures.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want.
Talked at length about Peyton and Drew Brees and,
even look at Stefanski, like, not to, my own bias.
Bring it right back,
Yeah, but like as a running back coach to work all the way up, like that proves that the Vikings just know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I'm sure
that
a
running back coach for the Lions going to take a job.
No, that's very true. But I'm sure that experience, that wealth of knowledge for him to move around and bounce around positions, obviously helped him get a better understanding of general offense and scheme. So set him up to be in a pretty good position today.
Obviously, a little insight on Drew Brees too.
Yeah. Of course. Let's talk about the time for the divisional round, and that is now this weekend. First, on Saturday, we have the 6-seeded Rams traveling to Green Bay for the 4:15 game against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, who are on top of the NFC. Now, this one, I think, is going to be a little bit more interesting than people are starting to give it a little bit more hype as we get closer to it.
Jalen Ramsey, I feel like, is helping with that.
Exactly. Between Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, that defense has 2 key anchor points at different parts of the position group. So, really, when you have a defense like that, you can make, I don't want to say any defensive play call, but you're going to make it look pretty good most of the time because those guys are going to go out there and make plays. So I wanted to say, though, we talk about that trio in New Orleans. I think this is good because we're talking to Line just earlier with Breeze, Kamara, and Thomas, who were just together for only 60-some snaps this year before that playoff game. What about Rodgers, Adams, and Jones for Green Bay? And which trio would we take there if you had to pick one?
A healthy Michael Thomas, Kamara, and
you think so?
Breeze.
If I'm going to have to go off this season, probably go with Packers.
Yeah, I would too with this season. Yeah, so
last season,
you make a good point though about Thomas
Aaron Rodgers
and the foot, right?
Probably the MVP.
Yeah,
so probably take him.
And Devontae Adams, since he's come back, he hasn't even had a complete season too. We have to remember, right? Yeah. So since he's come back, those two literally picked up right where they left off, which is super impressive.
He's definitely been the best receiver in the league this season.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah,
stats wise, I think would probably back you up too. So
it'd be him or Diggs.
Yeah, Diggs. Is he the receiving leader right now?
Diggs is the receiving leader and the reception leader, and the other one's the touchdown leader.
Yeah, Adams is.
Yeah.
There you go. So 2 dominant trios, but I would have to agree with you. If you're looking at this season alone, like that trio has been more dominant. But my guy from the episode earlier this week, Cam Akers, the running back for the Rams, talked about how he caught my eye in last week's win for them. He needs to have another huge day to help Jared Goff get comfortable. And I think that will allow them to open up the playbook a little bit because if they have to just drop back and pass when he's playing with 4 fingers and he's got that broken thumb he's trying to recover from a couple weeks ago, it's going to be a tough game because not that the Green Bay defense is really stifling or gives people that many problems, but I think when they get that run game going a little bit, then you get into some of the more intricate parts of the playbook, and I think that Rams offense needs to open up a bit.
I think overall, time of possession, not like it's always a big factor in who wins the game, but this week especially because you look at the 4 teams coming on the road, all 4 of them can run the ball. The Bucs not as much, but the Browns, Ravens, and Rams, you're going to need them to run the ball to win those games.
Yeah,
you're going in hostile environments.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think Cam Akers is going to have a big day. I don't know if he will, but that Green Bay defense is shaky when it comes to running the ball.
Run-wise, yeah, I would agree.
Pass defense, it's obviously going to be – they need Cooper Kupp back because that Packers defense is good when it comes to pass defense. If you're missing your top receiver, because I would say him over Robert Woods. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but
Probably.
yeah. But I would say you need your top dog. You're gonna have to need your dog,
especially this time of the year.
Yeah.
You bring up that point about running the ball a lot, and if you think about it, like Jared Goff could be one play away from not being able to play with his thumb.
I mean, and then who do you go to?
Right.
Because Wolford is out with.
Who do you have?
Well, I forget what his direct actual injury was,
neck?
but was
Some-
it neck,
I don't
some
know.
type of neck injury. But
Concussion,
he's
maybe.
gone. He's gone though.
It's gonna be Rams are gonna be in trouble.
I think so, and I think the worst
Wait,
thing
don't
for
they have
them.
Blake Bortles?
Do they?
Ooh, Blake Bortles. That'd be
Imagine.
great.
Well,
GOAT?
they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. But I think the worst thing for LA, for them to come out, even if they do possess the ball for a long time in their first couple possessions, if Green Bay comes out and goes on an 8-play, 80-yard drive and scores like the first couple, that's going to be
I'm the Rams. I'm taking the ball. So like,
Really?
if I'm flipping the coin, I'll be like, you know what? Let's go pound it down their throat. If we can't,
they need
let's-
long possessions,
let's
but
field
most
possession
importantly,
it.
possessions that end in points,
Yes.
like almost every time. Even if it's just a field goal, something that keeps it.
I don't know.
I know they need touchdowns, but I'm just saying with that Rams offense, especially in the red zone, I think any type of points you get there, you just gotta. It's gonna come down to their defense.
I don't know if it's just me or if I can like back this up with stats, but it always seems like the Packers' drives are super long.
Really.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's some times where Devontae Adams is clearing the field or Valdez
MVS,
Scantling.
yeah.
But I feel like you're right, where Devontae Adams is doing those 5-yard out routes to get
Yeah.
the first down, or Tunyon's doing the under routes or
Or
whatever.
they get the flag to keep the drive alive.
Yeah.
I would assume that's what their game plan would be going into this game, especially like with this type of defense that they're going to be playing against. They're not necessarily maybe early in the game going to be looking for some big shots down the field, but maybe we don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know what they're going to come out and look like. So I think that'll be interesting. Now, we're not going to make any picks yet, so stick around to the end of the episode where we make our game picks on the NFL Divisional Round. We have no college picks. Obviously, the season's
Thank
over.
God.
So
That was so easy.
But let's go to the next game on Saturday, the 5-seeded Ravens at 2-seed Buffalo for the night game. This game for me is on Josh Allen for the Bills because that Baltimore defensive line, they shut down the line of scrimmage, and I don't see the Buffalo backfield being a problem for them between Moss and Singletary, just like we said last
Moss
week.
is out.
He is?
Yeah.
So
It was his ankle. I was wrong. I said it was his knee, but it's his ankle.
even more so, that backfield I don't think is going to be a problem.
Actually-
When they shut down Derrick Henry to 40 yards,
They actually just
they pick up somebody else?
Devontae Freeman.
Really?
Really?
So apparently
not hear
there's
that.
this new rule. I don't know if it's new, but people
COVID,
are
man.
starting to figure out. No, if you sign someone to your practice squad, then you can put them on the practice squad. So the Giants, because obviously the Giants got, Saquon was out, so they signed Devontae Freeman. They let him go so he could potentially join one of these running back rooms, and they signed him to his practice squad, and he might suiting up for the Bills this weekend.
Interesting.
Just
I would
like
actually like to
Similar
see
to
that.
the
Veldier.
lineman.
Yeah.
The Grand
Yeah.
Rapids Catholic Central coach who's with the Packers now, right?
Yeah.
So he'll
Yeah.
be playing in that first game. I think that'll be interesting.
But
But
yeah,
for
go with
me,
what you're saying.
the game is just on Josh Allen and his arm because how many plays they're going to be able to make through
And
the
his
air.
legs.
And his legs. That's a great point. He was their leading rusher last week, which is part of the reason why I don't think that backfield. Now, the storyline, of course, is Derrick Henry getting shut down last week for Baltimore, but it wasn't even so much that they were going and making plays on Derrick Henry. And not that I'm trying to defend him. I think he's a great player, but if you put any running back in their situation, they're going to struggle because the Ravens were playing very solid gap defense, and they're playing very honest. They're staying true to their scheme, and I think that I know that was why that he was struggling because Derrick Henry at times can be a very patient runner. He gets a lot of those backdoor cuts. Those guys were not letting him get anything. They would sit at the line of scrimmage, and they made a lot of tackles for loss. So that was big.
As much as you think the game is on Josh Allen, I really feel like the game's on Lamar.
Yeah.
Because
I think the pressure's off of him now, though, right?
I
So-
agree. But at the same time, you look at it to where you're like, if the Ravens are down or the Ravens are winning, are you more confident that Josh Allen can throw the ball downfield and get that game-tying field goal, or Lamar?
Josh Allen.
Josh
for
Allen,
Sure.
Yeah.
exactly. So
That comes
as
throwing.
much
Aren't
as
they both coming off their first playoff wins?
yeah, this is the first playoff wins.
that's a good point.
Yeah, and so I really just think that Lamar, as much as he shut a lot of doubters up, and I really think he did, if he can do it with his arm, he'll shut everyone up.
Oh, agreed.
Fun fact, I was looking at this graphic from the 5 QBs from that draft class. Baker, Josh Allen, Lamar, Sam
Darnold,
Darnold, and Josh Rosen.
Yeah, Rosen,
Chosen
yep.
Rosen.
Josh Allen actually leads all 5 of them in rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
That I did not
Did you
know.
see that on the Sunday Night Football?
I did.
The Jeopardy thing. I thought that was
Yeah.
a really cool graphic, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lamar is in wins, I'm pretty sure.
Lamar's in wins, Josh
Well,
Allen's
yeah.
in rushing touchdowns, and Baker's in touchdown
Passing
passes.
touchdowns.
Man, That's interesting how they all have their own little area.
And they all got their first playoff win
wins.
together. That's kind of cool.
That's really
the other
sweet.
two are just class. Like one's pretty much going to be out of the league, and the other one went 2-14.
He got dropped by the.
He's on the Bucs practice squad.
He was on the. Okay, he did like got dropped by the Bucs.
And then he signed with the 49ers.
Baker is the oldest remaining quarterback in the AFC playoffs.
He's 25. Jared Goff is the youngest, and he's older than Baker.
That's wild, dude. That is so wild. But let's move on to Sunday's games for the NFL. Sunday's first game, we have the 6-seeded Browns, and they head to Kansas City, which is really the road of the AFC right now. Runs through Kansas City, much as like Green Bay and the NFC, that kind of relation there. But is the party over for Cleveland? Will the Browns get clapped? Zach Line did not seem to think so that was encouraging. But that's what Chase Claypool said on his TikTok Live. So many questions, but first of all, TikTok Live, get off TikTok Live.
Why are you putting your film on TikTok Live?
He
even says I watched the whole thing just because I want to see like what
you were on Chase Claypool's TikTok Live?
No, I went on Instagram.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, this is my media guy calling me. I'm going to have to get off real quick." Yeah, because you're showing your film to TikTokers.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
He probably got on there and was like, oh, no. How about between that and then Juju's little post with his little fairy lights up in his room?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
And then I even sent it to you yesterday. It just proves how immature those Steelers guys are. Not to get off track, but Baker goes.
Not all of them, but yeah.
Baker goes and fist bumps Juju after the game. He had no reason to. Those guys, that's one thing about playoffs. When you lose, as much as it sucks, I feel like you should. I don't know if it's COVID, but you should go and congratulate the other team. Like, hey, good game.
Yeah, you definitely ain't COVID. I'll tell you that.
Big Ben, Juju, and Pouncey are all sitting on the
I don't know.
bench. Like
the Ravens didn't.
Oh,
shake
trust
hands
me,
with
I was
That's a different situation,
very upset about that.
Very
one too,
different
though.
situation.
Because when Tom Brady didn't do it, obviously there was a lot of hate on Tom Brady, and Lamar literally just ran to the locker room. I understand there was a little hate, but still, there was no hate between him and Tannehill.
Yeah.
So
it's a good point. Yeah, and they didn't shake hands, right?
Yeah. But back to this game, you said, is the party over? I don't know, because I feel like if they lose, the party's still going. They broke every broke every record.
The party cannot be stopped at this point. I think you got a good point.
I mean, the popular opinion is probably that they're going to lose, but I really don't know. If I'm going to be honest.
I would agree with you.
After that first quarter
That's definitely the popular opinion, yeah. But that first quarter was a lot of circumstantial events, too. Things that the Chiefs, which I would have said last week the Pittsburgh Steelers would have probably have not done. But
they did make the interceptions.
Yes, they did. But I'm saying the Chiefs, I would say, are a much more fundamentally sound team that does not make mistakes like that.
And they got some reinforcements back today, and they're getting them tomorrow, too.
So for the
Ward
Browns.
is activated.
Really?
Just got activated today. Kevin Johnson got activated. Stefanski's coming back on Thursday.
Obviously, yep, that's huge.
And then Batonio as well.
Not coaching any wide receivers in the parking lot this week.
No.
Mahomes does have all those dropped interceptions this season. So
yeah, I saw that
most
stat.
ever. It's like 10 or something crazy.
16.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's up there?
Well, I'll tell you what. That's one of the reasons why I personally don't think the Browns are going to win. Obviously, we'll get to the picks later. But I'm looking at the Chiefs. Have they had a dominant win? Because when they were like Tyreek Hill at 200 yards.
I think they won their last 8 games by like 6 or less.
Yeah, when Tyreek Hill had like 300 yards, you're like, wow, they're killing him. Tom Brady came back.
Yeah, that was unreal too, and that was all in like the first half too.
Yeah,
well, not all of it, but a majority
the Dolphins game was close, and I don't think Tua is that good to hang with.
It's a defense.
Mahomes.
It was the defense that kept him in that game.
And then the Falcons in Kansas City.
It was the turnovers.
Can convert on these interceptions.
Hey, you know who had an interception off Patrick Mahomes this year? Not to cut you off,
Jeff Heath.
That
was one game they lost.
It was the only game they
lost.
lost.
Well, the second game, because they lost to the Chargers in the last week, but Mahomes didn't play.
We're not gonna
That's true. Yeah, it doesn't really count. But
anyway, but if you count all these interceptions, let's say they get caught, I mean, you're seeing like 20 interceptions around there for Mahomes.
Looking like a Jameis Winston type season.
Yeah.
But that game will definitely be interesting. But like I said with Lamar, the pressure is off. And the pressure was off for Cleveland last week. It's off again for them this week. They aren't expected to win. The popular opinion is that they're going to lose. So the party... No, it's not over because you can't stop the party. The party's already going on.
The most dangerous team is always the team that has nothing to lose.
I agree with that. And I think we go back to the interception thing. Like, yeah, it was great that Cleveland capitalized on those things from Pittsburgh. If they get those same chances against Kansas City, they're going to have to do the same thing, which I have no doubt that they will.
I don't expect the first snap to be over Mahomes' head by 8 feet.
Imagine.
Can you
imagine?
If it's back-to-back, I'll take it.
Hey, he's not complaining. But the last game on Sunday is a matchup of the old heads, like we were saying. No, Sunday.
Oh, we're already on Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday's first game was Browns.
Yeah, there's only 4 games now.
Oh,
yeah, dude. There's barely any football
Super
left.
wild card.
It's ridiculous. But Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to New Orleans to play Drew Brees and the Saints. We heard what Zach Line had to say about this one, and I would agree with him. Like, you don't need to reinvent your offense. You've already beat these guys twice. You beat them by 35 last time. So I think they're seeing a little bit of a different Bucs team that started to figure some things out and started to gel with all that talent they have on the roster. But I also don't think that's going to be enough. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, you're saying it's hard to beat a team twice. I think
They
it's
did
even
it.
harder to beat them 3 times, even though
Really?
you're saying it might be easier. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect. We got playoff Brady now.
We do have
So,
playoff Brady,
yeah.
who's unreal.
I know teams get conservative in the playoffs. I mean, the Tampa didn't really get that conservative last week.
They played the same game, which is why I think there's been growth from Tampa Bay.
Right.
Well, that's the biggest thing for me is you've had all the talent there all year, really, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And remember last week you're saying like, well, Antonio had a great, but like he only had this. But then like you look at Godwin and Evans, and they both had good games. You're
Cameron Brate.
yeah, nobody had like this one, like nobody had a cheetah game. You know what I mean? Like a Tyreek Hill game.
Right.
But they all were contributing, and I think if you can get, it's almost a managing egos at
That's
some
Tom
point.
Brady's career, though. I feel like he's always been that guy that, like, you know, or you get a catch, you get a catch, you get a catch. You know what I mean?
Spreads it around.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
he's a point guard, and he
Everybody-
loves to just make everyone get a basket. You know,
I think a lot of people like to think of the NFL as like this like air raid kind of league now, like going away from the run. But if you like really look into it, like a lot of teams that make it far can run the ball well.
Oh yeah, especially in the
Because
playoffs.
In the playoffs, like you're not going to put the ball in the air that much, I assume.
Yeah.
You watch the Bills Colts game. There wasn't as many passes you might expect in the regular season. So I think it'll come down to who has a better run game.
yeah,
It's
Even
funny
though both
because-
teams have good passing attacks
Yeah,
as well.
for me, it's funny because this game has shifted, especially at the NFL level. We're starting to see it, not starting. We've seen it trickle down to the college level. It's, like you said, going to that air raid, very air pass dominant. But that same formula holds true in so many of the most meaningful games, the national championship. Well, maybe not this year as much because that was a big air attack. But in playoff NFL football, especially when you get into inclement weather and some open stadiums. But that won't be for the Saints,
Yeah,
though,
it's a
obviously.
dome.
But
before you move on, though, I
Go
want to
ahead.
say the first week of the season, I feel like, is the most overrated week of the year because
In the NFL?
you look at teams that are like,
The first week,
because you look at teams, for every Lions, every first game for the Lions, you're like, oh, we got a shot. You realize, no, we don't.
yeah, at this point,
The
hey,
Bucs-
Jacksonville was 1-0,
That's what I'm going at.
not satisfied.
1-15.
Jackson.
You see that tweet? Not to cut you off. Sorry. Did you see that tweet?
I didn't.
So someone tweeted, the Jacksonville Jaguars tweeted,
Okay.
not satisfied after one win.
Yeah,
Somebody
I
came
saw
back
it.
and quoted it and said, evidently they were satisfied.
Yeah, I saw that. But that's exactly what I was getting at. The Colts were a
Yeah, that's
playoff
a good
team
point.
and lost the first game. And you're looking at this year totally different now, no preseason or whatever. Tom Brady that first
Yeah,
game
without the preseason.
didn't have he had 10 practices
How many?
or
Yeah,
something.
to actually throw to these
with
guys.
this guys, come on.
That's a good point.
And I look at the last game, and obviously it was a blowout. But I just really have some optimism around Tom Brady just because, A, he's Tom Brady. And the Saints have nothing against Zach Line, but they got this reputation of, hey, we're going to choke in the playoffs. Just wait.
Yeah.
It's going to happen soon.
And even sometimes if it's just not even in their control,
Sometimes
either,
it's just a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
which has been the last 3 years.
Vikings,
The
Rams,
Minneapolis
Vikings.
Miracle, the Rams flag,
Dude.
And then
Kyle
they-
Rudolph
The
last
push
year.
Yeah.
off, right? The
Yeah.
offensive, should have been offensive P. Well, maybe not.
Adam Thielen had that grab. You remember that?
Yeah.
Cousin threw his best ball of his career.
I mean, primetime Kirk.
Yeah, gosh.
That's the man. That's the man. But that's all we've got for the NFL games. Like I said, stick around to the end of the episode and use those timestamps to fast forward to the game picks if that's what you're into. I don't know. Maybe you want to hear our opinion. Maybe you don't. That's fine. But we're going to get into our conversation with the second guest of the day, that being Mike Sullivan. Joining us on today's episode, we have a guy who was a quarterback at St. Joseph's College in Indiana, but he's made his name on the Mike Valenti Show on 97.1 The Ticket. It's Mike Sullivan. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, fellas, what's up? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Between the three of us, I know when I saw your tweet about the new resolution about trying to get on podcasts, maybe schedule kind of a block of an hour out of your week, I knew it was something I had to reach out to you. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's just important to really prioritize and emphasize. I think the importance of a lot of guys like you and people in college and younger kids that really just want to create content and that are passionate about something. Obviously, with you guys, love the name Divisional Reject,
Thank you.
hilarious. But I think it's really just cool to see people like you guys, pursuing a passion and pursuing a goal and really doing something around what you enjoy. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know I myself am a multimedia journalism major. These guys, they're not in any type of communication field, but they enjoy it just the same, and I kind of drag them along through this.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of fell in love with it when I was listening to Pardon My Take, the Barstool podcast. I was like, Kobe, this would be a great idea. And he was like, I was actually thinking about doing something like that. So kind of just went with it from there.
Yeah, that's I mean, those guys kill it too. I actually have I've known Big Cat for a few years now, and
really
to see their rise has just been unbelievable. And all the stuff that I actually saw Dave. I don't know Dave, but I actually saw Dave Portnoy down in Miami last weekend too. And just all the stuff that they're doing right now is just unbelievable. I think the Barstool model, kind of like what I was just saying of content, is just so huge to just continue to push a ton of content out there. I mean, people want it, people consuming it. So I think what they've done is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they found a very interesting blend of audiences, I feel like, because they appeal to a lot of like that college area, that middle, right there. But then they do things like this small business fund. And then it's like some of these people who may have not been too big on Barstool before, like some of the old heads, all of a sudden are like, wait a minute, like this is a really nice gesture that these people are doing. So I think they're starting to turn some heads. But let's talk about you a little bit. Obviously, a ton of people, especially in the Metro Detroit area, that know you and your voice from your days on the radio. But tell me about your new business venture, Brand 25 Media. I'm excited to hear a bit about what you got going on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Absolutely. I'm sitting in my office right now in downtown Royal Oak, and,
awesome.
And it's really been cool to dive into it. I had a great time at 97.1 and learned a lot and really just networked a lot and got to know so many people. And then that's one of the biggest things I would encourage anyone to do is just network. And, it really just got to the point where, so many of my radio clients were also asking about some help with social media, and they've seen what I did on social media. And it kind of really started as like a side thing of helping various companies go online with their online presence and talking about social media management, SEO, digital ads, that type of thing. And it really started on the side, and Kyle Bogey, obviously, who's at 97.1 is my partner now. Yep. And he had joined me as well. And it really just took a life of its own in terms of just the growth of the business. And that kind of, coincided at the exact same time with Metro Detroit Golfers, which I launched, which is now the largest golf community in Michigan. We got 30,000 members. It's just been crazy. So those two things really just gave me the motivation and just the desire. I've always had a big desire to build a business, so it just really allowed me to, what, I'm young. I really want to take a jump. I really want to build something long-term. And I don't want to look back and say that I never took a chance, never took a risk, so it was a tough decision, but it really was an easy decision because my mind was made up, and I knew that I really wanted to just go dive in and really just pursue and try to build something here.
I love that. And especially right now with COVID, everything's shut down. Like, this has been a time for so many people. Like our guest last week said something about how COVID has been so bad for so many people, but it's been almost a blessing for him because it's offered them this opportunity to grow and kind of look inward as opposed to outward. So you can take that perspective and do with it what you might, like obviously you're doing here. But Drew, you got something?
Yeah, I just want to say I thought that was really cool. I was in the DECA program at my high school, and our big goal was to build an online brand presence for companies. And we took the Flint Drive-In Theater, and we did a huge project on it, competed in the state thing. So I thought that was really cool how you're just trying to help other businesses like that.
Yeah. So, and I think what you guys just said too, it's very, very similar to something that I say on client calls almost every single day. It's, you never in any way think or believe that COVID is a good thing. 'Cause it's not. It's terrible. We all know that. But in terms of our business, guys, I mean, the amount of companies and small businesses and places right now that know the importance of needing to be online and needing to be digital and needing to have social media. There's stat after stat about that. It really is a very relatable conversation with so many business owners that just don't have an idea or isn't their specialty or don't have the time to really focus on social or digital. So that's the thing where we've been able to come in and now more than ever, people realize that you have to be digital, you have to be online. It's not only the future, but it's here. There's number after number that proves that. So I think that time right now, from a pure timing perspective, and I say this very humbly because there's so many small businesses struggling, which I absolutely hate to see, but I say it humbly that we've been flooded, and then it's been really just cool to really dive in and grow it. It's grown at even a pace that I didn't even think it would initially, but it's been a lot of fun.
That's great to hear. And before we get into a little talk about some Detroit sports, I wanted to hear if there was one brand or maybe person that you in the future looking down the road would be like, you know what, that'd be sweet to work with that person or that brand as far as the digital marketing and that type of atmosphere goes. Who would that be?
Yeah, that's a great great question, and it's ironic, probably a perfect transition into the Lions. The Lions is a big one.
That would be great.
I've had a few phone calls with the Lions lately about doing a ton of different digital media projects and doing a ton of social media stuff for them. So I'm, growing up a huge Lions fan, we struggling as a huge Lions fan growing up. It's still the team that I've always loved. So to have these types of conversations with the Lions lately has just been awesome. And then also I'd give you kind of more of a general answer. I think that we really want to focus more as well, in addition to our golf community, but focus on getting into some athlete branding and athlete management a little more too. We recently took over all of the social media for Darren McCarty, which has been awesome. Had a Zoom yesterday with Torrey Krug. He plays for the Blues. He's a local kid.
Sweet.
So they talked to Kendrick Nunn. There's a ton of potential there. So I think getting into the athlete world a little more is something really relatable to me, and I'm sure you guys as well with you guys being athletes too.
Yeah, especially at a lot of smaller schools too. I know like the need for a digital presence is huge, especially like in Northern Michigan where I'm at, up in the UP. Like we don't have a team that is devoted to just like football graphics and things like that. So like sometimes if we got a new recruit, like I might be asked to make a little committed graphic, something they can post on socials, things like that. But let's talk about the Lions. They go and interview Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy on Monday of this week, and then defensive coordinator Robert Saleh from the 49ers just interviewed as well. But I will say that Saleh got a second interview from the Jets. That's correct.
He appears to be the favorite.
Like the favorite for that job. So I wanted to ask you, do you think one of these two guys is going to be the next guy for the Lions, or do you see someone else and coming in and taking the job?
Yeah, I saw that thing about the Jets today too. I was kind of surprised that I thought it would be Saleh.
Yeah.
It just seems to make the most sense. He's not only a local guy, but he's really well respected.
Yep.
I thought that it would be him. So that is kind of surprising to hear how close he is with the Jets. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things in terms of his interest level here. So I am kind of surprised that it seems to have stalled just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% get that. But I would say that, looking at the GM side of things, this kind of came out of left field for me today, but they've supposedly made an offer to the Steelers GM, which is Kevin Colbert, who has won 2 Super Bowls with Pittsburgh and was with the Lions franchise for 10 years as their pro scouting director from 1990 to 99 before he got that job in Pittsburgh. So I think that'd be a huge pickup for this franchise. And I think it's kind of interesting because a guy like Saleh, too, they have those ties to the area, and I think that's been a huge emphasis on their search. But how important would that be for them to get Colbert?
Yeah, I mean, I love that, too, and I think that is a credit to Spielman and him coming in as advisor and just trying to shoot for the stars. We've heard them tied to, who is it, potentially trying to make a run at John Snyder of the Seahawks, right? Or Tolbert. I mean, you're talking about organizations that have guys with massive success, and that is completely different than what they did in the past in terms of going to the Patriots and hiring some, Bob Quinn, who wasn't exactly a huge decision maker, but just because he came from the Patriots, you trust him. So I hesitate to say, if they're the Steelers or the Seahawks, that means it's the right fit. But I do think there's something to be said about proven GMs that are not even, they're not candidates from the standpoint of they're younger guys on the rise, and that's why they're a candidate. I mean, it's literally the Lions trying just to go, pick up and just, plop someone from another organization in theirs who's pretty well rooted. Yeah. So I do respect that persistence that at least the Lions seem to be doing.
I agree. And Drew showed me here, this news just broke a couple hours ago that Holmes from the Rams is the college scouting director for them. He seems to be the favorite now for the Lions job, which is kind of surprising. So
isn't it remarkable? Remarkable though? I mean, you see how many times do you see stuff like that? Oh, this person's now the favorite. Now the betting odds have changed.
And where does that come from, right? Like, who is just decides, like, oh, yeah, he's the favorite now? Like, he walked out of the building with a smile? Like, how does that determine?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know.
I think Vegas plays a big role in that, too.
That's a good point, too, yeah.
Just wanted to let you guys know, breaking news, the Nets have acquired James Harden.
officially now?
Officially. So
there you go.
Not to get off the Lions
Yeah, not
talk,
to get too far off of that.
Yeah. But this actually leads me into my next point for you, Mike. So the Lions seem to not only be the one team looking for a new coach, obviously, but they also have a quarterback issue, I would say, because they have a big contract, such like the Atlanta Falcons almost. Do you think this is the last time we saw Matthew Stafford in a Detroit Lions uniform? And if you do think so, where would you trade him to? Or where, as Matthew Stafford, would you be like, I want to go play for them?
Yeah, what a great question. I do think it is the last time we'll see Stafford here. It just seems, all signs seem to be pointing towards that. I think that I'm a guy who believes that Stafford's a good quarterback. I don't think he's free from blame by any means. I mean, he certainly has his criticisms, but he's a guy that has worked hard. He's clearly just gone about his business, and I do think though that it's gotten to the point where the Lions need to completely rebuild, and it's only fair to him as well to trade him and just to move on. I think as much as I like the guy, it is time to just move on now. If you want to talk about him going to the Texans potentially with all Deshaun Watson stuff right now, or did you want to the Colts? I know have been rumored for Stafford, the Patriots potentially.
Football
so
team.
I think there's a million different outcomes, but it's really all dependent on the trade value too. I mean, he still has a lot of value. He still can play football. I mean, he still can play at a high level for a good team if he's surrounded in the right system. So I think that there still is potential for him, and I would almost think that he, wherever he goes, assuming that he's not in Detroit, that he's going to be hyper motivated to really show out.
Just want to see him win, man.
Yeah, especially if he's got a defense or anything like that. I mean, that's why I really like the football team getting him, because I see Alex Smith and I see Heineke. Yeah. I'm like, Stafford's a lot better than them. Nothing against those guys, but I think Stafford's a good quarterback, and he has some weapons too.
Let me ask you this then. This is a question my friends and I talk about all the time. How many quarterbacks in the NFL right now are, without a doubt, better than Matthew Stafford in your opinion right now? I'm not talking about contract. I'm not talking about age. I'm talking
just
about
overall
playing
ability.
The quarterback position.
I feel like he's on that. Like, you want to say top 10?
I would say top 10.
Yeah, like
I would
right on the edge
top
of 10. Like 10-9. I think that's where he's at. Obviously, there's so many different quarterbacks in so many different situations. Yeah. So seeing Stafford in a different situation could elevate that status to maybe top 5.
And also, this year is going to shake out pretty weird because Stafford's not the only veteran quarterback, that's going to have an interesting situation between Carson Wentz, possibly Big Ben. You got Phillip Rivers that could be possibly out of Indianapolis. Yep, Matt Ryan. So this is like, this quarterback market last year was super competitive, and so we saw that during out of free agency and coming into this year. Now we have a bit of a different situation because we got some younger quarterbacks that might be shaking around too, with Tagovailoa and Deshaun out of Houston. So there's so many things that could happen.
Speaking of younger quarterbacks, Mike, do you think the Lions take a quarterback with that 7th pick, or maybe sign a Gardner Minshew for a year and then let someone else come in next year?
I would think that they would draft a quarterback.
Okay.
Now that's the problem with you if you're drafting a quarterback, sure, ideally you want to be even picking top 5, top 3. It's not to say you can't get a great quarterback,
especially in this class. Yeah.
I mean, I would think I would think that they would draft a quarterback. Yeah, because again, I'm kind of the belief that they're moving on from Stafford. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead, Blaze.
So if they were to draft a quarterback, who would you say they should pick? Because I'm a big fan of the Zach Wilson kid from BYU.
I'm going to have to disagree with you.
But if he falls that far, who knows? So who do you think they would pick or could pick?
I mean, do you think a guy like Justin Fields would fall to 7?
I think there's a chance that happens.
And Blaze, I think you would agree that you would take a Fields over a Wilson?
No.
Really? Okay. Even given the frame of the two of those players?
No. I think Zach Wilson's arm and throwing is way better than Fields, in my opinion.
After that Coastal Carolina game, I don't have the same faith in him. He got very rattled very easily. But I guess we'll see how it pans out. I don't know. I think there's going to be some big-time quarterbacks that do drop just because of teams' needs right now. And there's a ton of quarterbacks in this class. Well, we forget about guys like Ellinger and other guys like that who are all coming in.
Mike, you bring up like top 3, top 5. Is there any chance? I mean, there was a lot of rumors a couple of years ago that the Lions would trade up and draft a quarterback. And then there was the whole Tua thing last year. Do you think they go up and maybe get a Zach Wilson at 4, or the Dolphins could be a team that are like, oh, we're willing to trade back because we could trade for Deshaun Watson.
If they move Stafford, yes, I would think that absolutely would be realistic, assuming they get some other draft capital for Stafford, which they, I'm sure, would. But yeah, what's going to happen though too is what happens every single draft and every single combine. You're going to see guys climb the board. You're going to see, watch Kyle Trask or the kid from North Dakota State is going to, really climb up the board and all of a sudden be projected top 6, and the Lions might have to make a move. So yeah, I think that whether you want to say Wilson or you want to say Fields or Trey Lance, Kyle Trask, I mean, any of those guys are going to be probably shuffling around the top 10 when you start seeing all these mock drafts,
Yeah, and there's so much quarterback talent in this class. Obviously, like outside of the obvious Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones and Justin Fields, then you drop down, you got guys like Lance and Trask was going to be the Heisman until he didn't show up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually went to that game. He did not perform the best.
Not at all. But like it's just so crazy to me that he's just an afterthought now. He has so much talent. But I did want to talk and kind of transition over into your playing days, and I love how the Division I rejects. I'm glad you like that. Obviously, you being a guy that played at the Division II level, graduated from Our Lady of the Lakes here in Michigan, and then went to go play at St. Joseph's. So playing for the Pumas in the GLVC, I saw a tweet you put out a while back. Your offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, the now passing coordinator, for the 49ers, who you said recruited you out of high school. What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you asking about that. He, and it's crazy. You don't really hear colleges shutting down, but I was there for 1 year, and now the school is shut down. It was Division II school, and now the school does not exist anymore. They went through some financial troubles a couple years ago and shut down. You don't hear about it. But,
no, I did not know that.
So I was recruited out of high school, and I love talking about this stuff. It's probably the perfect podcast to be honest. I was recruited out of high school, and not a big time recruit by any means, but I had chance to walk on, be a preferred walk on at Western, or I got visited by Michigan State. So there was a couple bigger schools that I got certainly some interest and visits from, but besides that, it was mainly the Division II schools. Yeah, so perfect for this podcast again, whether it was talking to Northwood or whether it was talking to
that's me, baby.
Another one I guess was 1AA was Valparaiso a bunch. So there was a ton of schools. I remember Pace out in New York. I got a scholarship offer from. But my point is, being able to go to St. Joe's, it was a good experience getting out, just getting away from home. Halfway between Chicago and Indianapolis, middle of absolutely nowhere. So that was a little tough, but besides that, Coach LaFleur was great. He was the youngest offensive coordinator in all of NCAA when he recruited me. He had just turned 24.
I was going to say, he seems pretty young.
He is.
Yeah, he was great. Coach LaFleur, he was the one who recruited me, who called me, who emailed me, who got me, the scholarship. I still talk to him to stay. I talked to him just a couple days ago, joking with him about being the next offensive coordinator here if Salah comes here, because they're obviously on the same staff. But I still talk to him to stay, and he was awesome, and it's just so cool to see his rise. I mean, when I was with him in meetings, you guys know how it is, just meetings after practice so much, and to see him, he went when I left, once I realized I wasn't going to the NFL, I had to do something with my life. So when I had transferred, he had spent one more year there. Then he went to be the OC at Davidson, and then he went to be a coaching intern with the Browns. At the time, his brother Matt LaFleur was there, Kyle Shanahan was there, and then that whole tree, the coaching tree fascinates me. So after that, he goes to Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur, and Shanahan all go to Atlanta.
Yep.
And then after that, Shanahan goes to San Francisco.
And Matt went to Tennessee,
goes to San Francisco with them. Matt went to Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay.
And Matt went to L.A. And now obviously he's the head coach of the Packers. Yeah. But that was the cool thing too, because when I was at St. Joe's, we would always watch cuts and film of Matt's film in the NFL, because obviously his brother was our OC. And at the time, Matt LaFleur at the time was a coaching intern for the Texans. So we'd always be watching like Matt Schaub film and stuff. It was hilarious.
Matt Schaub. Arian Foster.
So, but long story short, and I'll wrap it up here. The coolest thing, maybe not the coolest, one of the craziest things for me is when I left 97-1, I remember going over to Valenti's house and talking to him, and I remember talking to my boss, and there's only twice in my life I've ever felt like that. Number one was when I told, Mike LaFleur in his office and my coach Sanders at the time that, I was going to transfer and I was done playing football.
Yeah.
And you get this pit in your stomach, right? And the second one was at 97.1 when I knew that I wanted to leave and go pursue this, So it was very, very eerie to me how similar those feelings were, where as sad as it was, I knew in my gut that it was that both of those were the true right decisions. I knew that leaving, leaving St. Joe's and ending my football career to go pursue radio, I knew in my gut that was the right decision, right? And then when I decided to leave radio to go pursue this business, I knew that was the right decision, as tough as it was. So that was very, only 2 times in my life I felt like that. It was very eerie to kind of compare those.
I believe it. I think we lost you there for a second.
Can you hear me?
There you are. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I cut out, but
no, you're good. Just for a second there. Yeah.
Very, very, very eerie to feel both of those, and that it's the right decision, but it still makes it tough. But you just got to be confident in your decisions. So. Yeah.
Well, up to this point, you most definitely have been. I'm sure you will continue to do that in the future. I wanted to say best of luck from all of us when your current business ventures, whether that be Metro Golfers or Brand 25 Media. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on today.
Last thing for you, Mike. Who's your Super Bowl pick?
Oh, there you go.
Leave you at that.
That's a great one. It's only right if we end it with a Matt LaFleur reference, right?
There we go. That's fine.
That's fair. That's fair. Runs through the NFC there.
I think that the Packers are legit. How about you guys?
I would have to agree with you on that one, but
I'm going with the dog pound. The big Baker guy.
We'll see after this weekend. But thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
See ya. Really great conversation with Mike Sullivan from 97.1. That was awesome, man.
It was.
It was really
and
cool.
It seemed like he generally enjoyed being on too, which it makes me pretty happy.
I wonder how long it's been since someone's asked him about his old college days.
That's a good point, because he seemed pretty excited to talk about the Pumas over there at St. Joseph, which is no longer, apparently, right,
apparently,
the college?
According to him.
Yeah, well, which is a pretty good source, I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, he talks to Mike LaFleur still, so.
Yeah.
Shoot. But, no, I thought he was, pretty genuinely happy to be on here, it seemed like. And I know, I was telling Drew, he only told me he had 20 minutes. Well, we were going there for 24, 20, almost 25 minutes. And I was trying to wrap it up, but he just, I'm going to take whatever he gave me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Get those guys on all the time. But really appreciate him coming on. Let's kind of transition and head over to the college football scene, that side of things.
Is this going to be our last college football segment?
Oh, no. Dude, we can talk about college football all year. It don't matter.
Well, it kind of gets boring after a while when there's nothing happening.
There will always be news in college football.
More like coaching news.
News is news.
Way too early, top 25?
Gosh, I hate those. I hate those.
It's like an hour after the game.
Yeah, right. That dude, as soon as the final minute
the
sounds,
mock draft.
Some interns just hunched over a computer, hovering with their finger over enter. Ready?
Then the mock drafts that come out right after the first round's over. I'm like, bro, how are you predicting next year? This guy could die tomorrow.
Oh my gosh!
Wow. Whoa, that's what whatever.
Anyways, college football. Let's take a look at the final top 25 rankings of the season. This is the AP rankings. I know we were talking about that a minute ago. And some things that stand out to me in these final 25 AP rankings. The biggest one was that Northwestern finishes at 10 after their bowl win. Who was that over in the bowl? That was Auburn. Yep. So big win over an SEC team there without Gus Malzahn, right? Malzahn. Sorry, yes. Malzahn.
He did get fired.
He did get fired. So still a huge win for them.
Not sure why.
Yeah. Nobody's pretty much sure.
Between him and Tom Herman, right?
They were
Tom Herman. I
don't
get.
Really? Auburn. You get him more than Malzahn?
Yeah, he took him to a national championship.
Herman's 4-0 in bowl games.
I mean, I guess when you're in a league with Alabama, that's what you got. Yeah, but that's what you got to shoot for.
Tom Herman's beaten Oklahoma once. Gus Malzahn's beaten Alabama 4 times
in his tenure.
He has the most wins versus Saban.
The kick return.
There you go. Oh, kick 6. Yeah, that's a good point. Iron Bowl.
Then last year they beat him
assume it was
with Mac Jones was through that 100-yard pick 6. They beat him.
They did beat him last year.
Did they really?
Pretty sure they beat him 2 years ago too.
Wow. That's why they didn't make the playoff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Last year because they had the division loss.
You keep going. I'm gonna look that up.
AP 25. Northwestern finishes 10. That was in front of BYU, Florida, Indiana, and some other very well-known teams. In the Big Ten, I will say had some good representation here. We had Northwestern at 10. We had Indiana, like I said, right there. Iowa was in the top 25. What were they, like 18th? Iowa, somewhere around there? 16 for Iowa. Obviously, Ohio State is up there. And I want to say there was maybe one more team from the Big Ten up in there, or no?
Not seeing one.
Not seeing one? Okay, well, there were some good representation there, 4 different teams. Coastal Carolina sticks around at 14 even after that loss in overtime to Liberty, who finished 18th respectfully. And then from that Sun Belt Conference, we had Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns at 15, that one spot behind Coastal. So that was super interesting. And then another conference who had some great representation was the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, which we had 2 guests from early on in the week. That's good to see them have some representation. The Buffalo Bulls sneak in at 25 after a win over Marshall. And then we had Ball State at 23. So, and they beat the Bulls in the MAC championship. So good to see 2 MAC teams in there. Go ahead.
Before we keep going, since that kick 6 game, we'll count that as well.
Okay.
It's been 5-3 Alabama. How do you fire a guy after that? Michigan hasn't beaten Ohio State once.
Well, Michigan is
different standards, I guess.
Michigan's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
man,
what were your thoughts of the teams that you thought were a little too high, a little too low?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me see. I have it pulled up here. But before we kind of get into that, I will say that there were 6 non-Power 5 teams in the rankings, which I would believe is probably a best in recent years.
It's got to be because of COVID, because you look at teams like
that didn't get the same. Yep.
Arizona
USC,
State played
Oregon.
3 games.
Yeah, exactly.
Arizona State
and they lost their first one to USC, right?
Yeah. Barely.
So, in Arizona State, actually, with
JT Daniel?
No, the head coach, Herm Edwards, right?
Yeah, what's the quarterback's name?
I don't. From Arizona State, the Forks.
Number 5. I think it's Daniels.
I have no clue.
I don't know, but I know Herm Edwards and that team, they're young, too.
Yeah.
They got some true freshmen that are making some big-time plays.
Pac-12's wide open, too.
They are.
There isn't Stanford and Oregon up at the top anymore.
Well, Oregon, that's a good point.
But,
I mean, Oregon did win the championship this year, even though they didn't win their division.
USC?
Exactly.
USC's in the rankings.
Let's say
21.
Yeah, USC was in there. So I don't know if it's wide open, but I would say there's potential for anyone to come out.
Wide open of the
Power 5.
Power 5.
It's also the weakest of the Power 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
There you go. Especially now that, well, I will say, this is kind of off topic, but do you think there's any chance that Notre Dame might stick around in the ACC?
I believe so. They got into the playoff.
I really think so because
I mean, their basketball team's in the ACC.
So
are they
is
really?
their baseball
Yes.
team.
I did not know that.
Everything but hockey, I'm pretty sure, and football's in the.
I mean,
so that feels like the obvious choice for them.
this is kind of like their trial run, I guess, and it went pretty well, I'd say.
And it came out of necessity, right? It came out of need because they pretty much said, join a conference or you're not playing.
Right?
Yeah, and I think
the
what
travel
happened,
out, instead of going all over the country.
Yeah, because they were
play
going to
these random
Stanford.
teams.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, if they wanted to keep their rivalry with, they have one with Stanford, they have one with USC, they have one with Michigan. Schedule in the non-conference games.
Yeah, you get non-conference
Clemson
games.
plays South Carolina every year.
Yeah.
So
That's a good
Florida
point because
plays
the
Florida
in-state
State
right
every
there.
year.
So
yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, I think they're going to
It's not like
stay.
they're far away. They're right in Indiana. It's
Yeah.
not that far from the rest of the teams.
that is a great point. I think that would be advantageous for them. I really do. And I hope that's what we get moving forward because like you said, that ACC championship, was a lot more exciting because of that.
It's a lot
always
more amped up too.
The big question is always like, is Notre Dame good? Because
you don't have a measuring stick. That's a
Right.
great
But
point
now
too.
you can rank them compared to the other teams in the conference.
So who has played Clemson in the ACC champ? I know North Carolina in the past couple of years has been there. That wasn't Wake Forest. Miami would have been the other team that's been there a couple of years.
Bad.
Yeah. But yeah, it really has not
Virginia
worked out.
Tech?
Virginia Tech
Yes,
was the other
they
team
were.
too. The Hokies. There you go, Blaze.
But you're looking at teams like that in that conference. It's who's going to play Clemson.
Yeah, that's it.
With Notre Dame,
Right.
it's like, all right, maybe we're getting into Notre Dame Clemson Part 2.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that.
I think that'd be better.
Going back to what you said about maybe like somebody who surprised me or something like that, like ranked too high or too low.
Notre Dame too high.
Notre Dame too high.
Yeah.
Notre Dame finishes at number 5, so they're behind Texas A&M. Texas A&M gets moved up to 4, and then the Oklahoma Sooners are one behind them. So obviously, you think Oklahoma deserves to be.
I think Oklahoma's better than Texas A&M. I don't know if you guys watched that game. North Carolina's missing their 3 best offensive players besides Sam Howell.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma.
They were on a roll at the end of the season.
Yeah, but Oklahoma goes and puts it to Florida, who kept Alabama to a 1-score game.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's just
That was
Florida.
the only team in the country that kept Alabama to a one-score game.
Florida, how they dropped off there at the end. It just I hated to see that. And just losing all those guys to opt out and things.
Screwed them.
The loss to LSU did screw them. They controlled really their own destiny. And North
8-1.
Carolina,
Wow.
North Carolina drops
4 losses.
Yeah, I know it. That's unreal. And they're still very highly ranked. But I think they deserve it. You know what I mean? I think the committee looked at that and said they didn't have their talent when they were playing, this game or whatever. And I think they obviously took that into account because you don't see really any other 4-loss teams up here.
I don't know how BYU's above Coastal Carolina. Pretty sure
is,
I watched that whole game.
Yeah, I'm
BYU did win their championship. I think
they did. Or no, they're independent. I
would say championship.
I think they played a game.
Bowl game. Bowl game. Yeah, I say it wasn't a championship, but bowl game.
They played each other fair and square, and Coastal beat them.
I know, but we also see that with Coastal Carolina and Liberty. There's 4 spots in between those two.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think Liberty obviously beat them, but it was a close enough game, But I don't know. I just feel like
Liberty did move up 6 spots.
They did. Okay.
So, yeah, you got to give Liberty. They gave Liberty
and Coastal moved down 5. So the gap before was big.
BYU beat UCF.
They did in the Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah, that's the one.
That was a great point. Yeah, okay. I was trying to look that up. I couldn't think of that off the top of my head.
The Knights will be back next year. Just wait.
No, I'm looking at UNC is at 18. I think that's too low for them.
I would agree. Like you said, Sam Howell was without a lot of his weapons.
They did lose some games, but they were good.
Yeah,
if you actually watch them play.
Who else was in the 20?
Who'd they play?
I watched them play
Texas A&M.
I watched them play Miami earlier in the year, right?
Smoked them.
Yep.
Dude, I remember that was like kind of a contested pick on the show when Hunter, him and I did game picks. I was like, North Carolina.
Yeah, me too. I was with you.
Loved that pick.
Yeah.
So, but
they did end up losing that bowl game to Texas A&M, but they kept it close for a while.
And Texas A&M was ranked 5th, and now they're 4th.
Like people were saying that they deserve to be in the playoff, which do I agree? I don't know, but
over Notre Dame, I would put them. Now, after looking at it,
hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Yep. You're right.
I would have said Notre Dame was the more complete team heading into the playoff, but now, obviously, I would not agree.
Well, now I wouldn't even put Texas A&M. I think Oklahoma figured it out. But obviously, it's that's
too little, too late, right?
Yeah. Where when you lose your first couple of games, that happened to Oklahoma before.
Yeah,
they lost to. You remember Houston beat them?
I do remember that.
And then they lost the Big 12 game.
Kansas State. That was
probably they always lose to Kansas State. Kansas State or Iowa State always beats them. But then they ended up winning out.
Right.
And you were like, wow,
Iowa State got them this year once, didn't they?
Yeah. They did.
Yeah. Well, they got them back in that Big 12 championship. But I did want to move on and talk about the college football playoff.
This actually goes in perfect to what we're talking about.
Whether or not, exactly. So whether or not a playoff expansion is in the best interest of college football and that committee. And Chris Felicia, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's on as Bear on College Game Day. We all know him as Bear. But I didn't know his name up until this point.
Yeah.
I just realized I've watched a lot of College Game Day, and I never do this new.
And they never show his real name.
Never.
Bears Bets.
It's just Bear.
Yeah.
I thought that was ridiculous.
But Bears Bank. I don't know.
Yeah, Bears Bank. It's what it is. He bets like against the spread. But he tweeted this when talking about the college football playoffs. Quote, there have been 21 college football playoff games. 17 have been won by college football playoff games. 17 have been won by Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State. Expanding the playoff, which I haven't been a fan of, will not give us more title contenders, but it might be necessary to create more excitement among fan bases currently not in the playoff.
Pause. Do you know the 4 teams?
I was just about to say, let's do a little trivia.
I've already got them.
I got it to my dad. I asked my dad that same question.
Oregon?
Yep.
Oh, shoot. There's
2 more teams.
Let me think. Oklahoma?
Oh, you're talking about the ones that...
Oklahoma hasn't won.
Oh, you're right.
You're talking about the ones who have...
those other 4 wins.
Oh, okay.
Oregon?
I know Michigan State made an appearance. Did they win?
No.
God, no. They didn't
score.
score.
By Alabama.
Okay, I don't remember.
They didn't
That was
score.
a while ago.
Anyway, you're right. Oklahoma hasn't won.
Nope. They've always lost.
Florida State?
Nope. They lost to Oregon.
Who else then?
Georgia.
Yep. They beat Baker.
There you go.
So we got Oregon, Georgia. 2 more? Wow.
That's tough. I really don't know off the
Joe
top of my
Burrow
head.
got 2 wins last year.
Oh. LSU.
LSU.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that makes sense. But I thought you were talking about.
Wow. How can we forget?
I see.
Only 1 year ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That was the one that my dad couldn't get either. He was like,
you
Oregon, Georgia.
start thinking back. Yeah, that's a good
you're going
point.
all the way back.
Because I'd seen some of like the Michigan State and the Florida State who had made appearances. Obviously, did not fare well. But I think he's got a great point. I think if you put teams like A&M, well, Oklahoma definitely could have made some things interesting, but teams like A&M and maybe Cincinnati and that, like, are we going to get a different championship game? I don't think so. But then you can say all these fan base and all these people that are pissed off at the committee, you had your chance. You had your shot. So,
right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot more revenue when you think about it.
you were about to say about Reese Davis today.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about this guy who I've given up. I've hated this guy growing up, and I still can't stand him. Paul Feinbaum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't love Paul Feinbaum.
But he's
on Get Up, isn't he?
He was on Get Up today.
Yeah, he was.
He gave a great stat. Or not stat, but opinion.
Okay.
You're a recruit. Where do you want to go? You want to go to the teams that are making the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's only 4 teams that are making the playoff, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma, who have made the playoff more than anyone, they're going to get all the top recruits.
Yeah, where are you going?
Nobody's going to want to go to LSU is a powerhouse, so they're going to go there. But if you expand to 8, you're like, maybe I would want to go to a UCF where it opens up
possibilities.
Maybe I want to go to a Michigan that could finally get in.
Okay.
I
know what
Michigan's had more top 8 finishes than a lot of other schools.
That's a good point.
The powerhouses.
And they've always been just out of that reach, though. That's true. That's true.
These powerhouses might not keep dominating every year.
If they open that up. So I think right away, no, we're not going to see different title contenders. But as we start to open it up and guys get more options,
as more recruits are
very realistic
to North Carolina.
I agree.
I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago when I was on. But I think a good expansion to start off with would be 6 teams.
With a bye for the first 2 seats?
That might be a good start.
I think so, too.
A little bit. If you go straight to 16, it's like, whoa.
No, that's a lot.
You get
I think 8 would be the max for them. I think 8's for the max.
8's I actually, in junior year, I did a argumentative essay on why they should expand, and I said 8. So I'm going to keep it at 8.
There you go.
And I think
I like 6 or 8. I like both of them.
Yeah,
I do like 6 too, actually.
If you get so if you go to 8, it would be by seeding, right? So you get 1 versus 8.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama already blows out number 2, so they'd be blowing out number 8.
True.
But that's what we're saying. It might take a couple of years for them to really start to open it up.
They would have to minimize those non-conference games.
And then you have to think about, too, do they take, because the College Football Committee came out this year and really endorsed the conference championships, and how important those were. Does that take meaning away from that? Because you're going to have SEC especially. You're going to have teams that have SEC losses, and only one team can win the SEC championship, most likely Alabama. You can't knock them down as much now, right?
Well, there's also been times where you look at those conference championships, like you just said, and whether it was a Georgia that got left out because they didn't win the conference championship, but you're like, there's no way they're not one of the top 4 teams in the country.
We saw the game that Florida gave Alabama. But it's just...
What if you say that about Florida, and then they turn around and get destroyed?
They, like we said, they controlled their own destiny.
It's definitely happened, but you do remember Michigan State made it, and Ohio State didn't, and you were like, all right, if Ohio State and Michigan State ever played again, Ohio State would probably win.
Yeah.
But I feel like teams like that have always happened to where it's like you're so close, but because you had that one hiccup, you're not in.
I feel like that would just be more SEC bias. Like, oh, look at all these SEC teams.
Man,
would you go by would you pick one team from each conference? I guess the conference.
Yeah, there's got to be something.
So you get 5.
That's what I'm saying. I think they'd be in quite the predicament because the conference championships they said this year have been a great. Yeah, and you can't reserve spots.
What if you go to 10?
You know what I mean?
10, give a bye, and then have it 8.
Well, I think that no matter what, they need to allow a UCF, a Cincinnati, a Coastal to get in. So they can either prove it to where it's like, hey, all right, we get it, you're good, or we can. All right, you're not.
The worst case scenario is they get clapped, like we were saying earlier.
But we
also then it shuts up all the people that were saying. You know what I mean?
The one thing I hate this argument is where it's like, well, if the SEC team's not in the playoff, they don't care about the bowl game. Where UCF, that's their Super Bowl. Cincinnati, that's their Super Bowl. Well, Western Michigan, that's their Super Bowl.
Lost their Super Bowl, unfortunately.
Going back to your point about, you had your chance. Let's say like Alabama, number 1, is playing this number 8 team who's, let's just say, Coastal Carolina.
Dude, that might have, I think when the rankings were first there, that might have been Coastal. I forget what the actual rankings were.
Let's say Coastal Carolina might not be better than Alabama, but let's say they're better than the number 7 team. I don't know. So they could make an argument like, oh, we could have beat them, but not them.
There's always going to be naysayers, what you're saying.
Like you could have, they could have won until then, right?
Oh,
you get what I'm saying?
Man, that argument does become a little bit flimsy, but I know what you mean. Well, people would do that.
I feel like people like
they're going to say, oh, we're better than Ohio State. Like we could have been in the championship. Yeah. Obviously, probably would have lost. You know what I'm saying?
If you think about it, people talk to talk, just like the whole Washington football team, where it's like that's been the whole thing to get into the playoff. Like you got to win your division in the NFL.
Yeah,
and people are like, oh my gosh, the 10-6 Dolphins don't make it, but the 7-9. No, that's how it's going to be. You have to have something established.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
If you want to be in, you just got to win.
So we mentioned Reese Davis a couple times, and he was the one who brought up a great stat on Get Up when talking to Greeny about the playoff. That being, Excuse me, a little throat problem there. That being with 28 overall playoff appearances for college football teams, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma have 20 of the 28.
Let's see if we can figure out those other 8.
Oh, that's where we were going at earlier with the Oregon and LSU, and Michigan State and Florida State and.
Do you say LSU?
Yeah, we said LSU. So Notre Dame has the other ones. Twice. So Drew, Oklahoma is the only team to have over 2 appearances without having a win.
Georgia
made it. Yeah.
You hear that stat?
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
At least they made it 4 times.
Should have beat Georgia that one year.
Yeah, and they should have beat Clemson to show Watson's year.
If it's any,
I'm sure
consolidation. Notre Dame will probably be joining them here pretty soon if they get into another one.
They just did.
No, that was their second, I think.
Oh, have over 2.
Over 2. Sorry, yeah.
Wow, that's
Notre Dame.
That's a stretch of a stat. Like not 2, over 2.
I had to get it in there.
Stop.
I had to get it in there.
No, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there are teams where it's like a Notre Dame, like an Oregon, they're like, hey, if we could have made it for 4 times, that's fine with me. You know?
Oh, dude, yeah. Remember when Notre Dame and is it Brian Kelly, right? Remember when Brian Kelly was like, well, if we can't have fans there, maybe we'll boycott the playoff.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if they just got snubbed. Like, yeah, you're not going to have fans anyways because you ain't going to be playing in the playoff.
You don't want to go?
Yeah,
all right,
wait a minute.
You in.
Yeah, hold up. You don't want to go to the playoff? Hey, okay, that's fine.
Teams would love to just go to the playoff because it's not only just a big, celebration of they had a great year.
It's a recruiting thing.
It's a recruiting thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Oklahoma's not complaining that they got Spencer Rattler and the number 1 quarterback coming out of this year's class too. They're like, hey, we'll take him.
Michigan would love to be.
I know, right? Like Michigan needs one. That's all we need.
They find their guy every week, and then it just doesn't pan out. It seems like.
Gosh,
man, I don't know.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that, but. I think that's all we've got for the college football side of things.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, okay, Alabama or the field next year?
Alabama or the field?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, we're assuming Mac Jones is gone.
As well as Devontae Smith, Jalen
Waddle. I have another
Harris.
question for both of you.
Oh, he's a senior. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, a lot of them are gone.
That's like a whole offense reload.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Waddle's gone.
So then you look at what our other teams returning.
They do have Bryce Young.
Bryce Young's gonna be sweet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, DJ Ugalele or whatever.
Ugalele, yeah.
He did good.
Balled out against Notre Dame.
Okay, how about this?
Clemson is losing a lot of defense. I feel like
they are.
No, I think so too. Sklasky and that other
safety
guy.
The linebacker, right? The targeting. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Of Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama, do all 4 of them get in, or do you think one team's gonna have that?
We were talking about these yesterday. I think the last episode.
What?
Who's Ohio State's quarterback?
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I think they have.
Does it really matter who their quarterback is?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Oh, I don't know who it is though.
I feel like they're losing a lot of guys too, but they'll reload. Yeah. They got one of the best receiving corps coming in.
You were talking about how Ohio State quarterbacks never pan out, so like it doesn't really matter who their quarterback is. When you have all those other guys.
Joe Milton probably transfer there and win the Heisman.
Oh my gosh.
Or Brandon Peters.
My God. No, he's just bad.
He's just
you
bad.
Have to be you have to be decent.
You got to be mediocre at best.
Yeah. Lewerke goes there for 7th year.
Oh my goodness. But that's all we've got for the college football side of things. Let's get right into our game picks for the NFL. Game picks, NFL divisional round. There's only 4 picks to be made here, but we'll talk about it.
Are we picking for like who we think would win or who we want to win?
Think.
Okay.
Pick with here, not here. Pick with your head, not your heart.
Okay,
but I've kind of picked with here, and I'm in the.
So is Chambers. So is Chambers with the Lions. It hasn't worked out as well for him.
He goes.
Yeah, we don't really worry about the spread.
He kind of goes with more of his head. Chambers is more of his heart. I'm kind of in the middle, and I'm in first. So
you combine them.
Yeah,
it takes a little bit of both.
Your head and your heart.
The ultimate picker.
The ultimate picker.
The first game we have, we're kind of going in order here. First game, Rams at Packers. Talked about that defense. Talked about the trio from Green Bay. What are we thinking, Blaze?
I'm thinking Packers probably.
I'm thinking Packers as well, right out of the gate.
I mean, if Jalen Ramsey shuts down Devontae Adams, which could happen.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Shut down. He's not going to have the same impact. I know right away. Like, could he shut him down? There's definitely a possibility.
If he shuts him down or limits him,
limits is a better word, I think. Yeah,
they might have a chance, but I don't know with their offense. It's kind of slow.
So
Goff's hurt.
I think the problem for them is, I don't know what the rest of their defensive secondary looks like, admittedly, but okay, say he limits Devontae Adams. Okay, here's Lazard. Here's MVS. Like these guys have grown over the season.
Rodgers is good grown at getting everybody involved.
I was going to say, the problem is not about how great they are. It's how good Rodgers is. He elevates them. And I hate it. It pains me to say it.
At first, I thought you were saying, like, these guys are great. I'm like,
no. You put them in other systems, and they're not going to be,
right.
Like Jordy Nelson went to the Raiders and was horrible.
Yeah.
But Jordy Nelson was a stud on the Packers.
He elevates the guy's game, and when you have good athletes like MVS and Lazard there,
when you have a guy that can get you the ball,
yes,
helps you out.
It does help you out a lot. What are you thinking?
I'm gonna go with the Packers. I really think the Rams are gonna keep it close. So I think the spread was about 7. I think.
Really?
Yeah, because of Jared Goff's. I think they're gonna keep it close. I'm looking at like a 24-20 game.
Rams are used to playing inside.
That's
in
also
LA.
very
Not going to be out in the tundra.
Inclement weather.
Lambeau.
They've gone to Seattle multiple times, and that's always a tough place to play too. But
good
I'll
point.
look up the forecast.
Oh, please do. Yeah, let's get the weather out here. For Green Bay there. Did you lose her?
Green Bay does have the
I did
tight
wanna
end,
say-
Robert Tonyan.
They do.
He can make a good impact.
I did want to say, talk about the weather a little bit. You see that Bills game did not look like the weather had that much of an effect as
50% chance of snow this weekend, though.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
So that means like
What's
3
your
feet.
Buffalo?
Here. Yeah, but Buffalo,
I'll
it
look up
looked
the
like
weather and all of
it
it.
looked like it was 50 and sunny. Like it was ridiculous. That game in Buffalo did not look like a Buffalo playoff game. But
Right.
hey, I'm here for it. I don't really care either way. But that's good for Josh Allen and the boys too. Let's talk about them now. We have, as Drew looks up the weather here in Green Bay, Ravens at Bills. 50% chance of snow, Drew said.
Sunday for the Packers
Green
game.
Bay.
We're looking at my weather guy. Hold on. We're looking at about 27 degrees and, cloudy.
27 and cloudy. That is below freezing.
Yeah.
Can Jared Goff broken thumb? It might break off.
What if it just freezes and snaps off mid-game as he grips the football with the big skin? Oh, that'd be great. But Ravens
Saturday, Buffalo,
great.
36 with 50% chance of snow.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Lamar
So a little bit more.
came out and say he's
36?
never played in snow.
Really?
Yeah.
36. It's a little warm.
Louisville. Ain't any snow at Louisville.
I mean, he's in Baltimore for a while.
That is true. But obviously, like you said, he doesn't have much experience. What are you thinking here, boys? I'm going to go to you to start these off.
I think I'm going to have to go with the Bills with
Yeah?
this one. Yeah. I'm kind of on the Bills bandwagon a little bit. I like Josh Allen.
I love Josh Allen, and I love the Bills so much.
Do you?
And that's why I'm taking the Ravens, because I pick with my head and not my heart, because I think the Ravens right now are scary. That defense is scary. And like you said last week, the Ravens are the one team that nobody wants to play right now.
Hey, even though I like the Bills, I'm still picking with my head here.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you just said I thought you were taking the Bills.
I am.
Oh, okay.
But you're saying I'm picking it because I like Josh Allen.
No. I'm saying I like Josh Allen. I didn't want that to cloud my judgment.
Oh, okay.
You're entitled to your own
Anyway,
opinion.
there's been a lot of talk about can the Bills beat the Chiefs? I think they're like them and the Packers are like the
Oh.
two teams that maybe
The
like
favorites,
you
yeah.
like you could see it happening.
In the conversation.
And I think that they got their first win out of the way. They're kind of relieved, I guess you could say.
Same situation as Cleveland in a lot of aspects,
Right.
except they won the division. So.
I'm gonna go with my heart over this one.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
He takes the best of both.
I don't want to play the Ravens.
Doesn't want to play the Ravens.
And I think Dave Portnoy tweeted after the Browns-Ravens game and said, can you guys imagine a Cleveland-Buffalo AFC championship? The fan
Wow.
bases that haven't been there in 30 years.
yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going to go with the Bills.
And
There we go.
if you go back to the Bills, like a couple losses they had, right? They had a Hail Mary loss.
Yep.
They
Hail
lost,
Murray,
to,
to
they
be
lost to the
exact.
Chiefs.
And they lost to the Titans.
And they lost to the Titans. So, I mean, like,
Legit
Yeah.
teams. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, legit Arizona, whatever. But yeah, I'm still gonna stick with the Ravens.
I'm not saying the teams they lost to were legit. I think
no,
the Bills
no,
are legit.
yeah, exactly. I know what you mean.
Like,
I know exactly.
They're
what
right
you mean.
on like one loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still sticking with the Ravens because of that defense and the way they dominated that line of scrimmage. But I think it will be a great game. Let's go to Browns at Chiefs, running through the AFC here.
42 and sunny.
42 and sunny there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. So not in favor of the Browns when you think about it.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
A little bit of silence
I
there.
mean, Mahomes said he likes throwing in the snow.
He does. Mahomes actually said he loved playing in the snow.
But
Loved
you know
it.
who can't guard the run? The Chiefs defense.
Really?
You know who's going to have a big day? Nick Chubb.
Big
You know
Chubb?
who's going to have a bigger day? Kareem Hunt.
Bigger
Where
than
he's
Chubb?
saying, yeah, I think
How many
I think
yards
this is
combined? What are we looking at all purpose?
160 from the two of them. 170 maybe.
Okay.
I think
It's a good.
Kareem
That's a
Hunt.
solid day. Yeah,
I
solid.
think Kareem Hunt's going to be the difference maker in this one. I watched the Browns, obviously two completely different teams now. But the last time the Browns played the Chiefs was Baker's rookie year and Mahomes' first year starting.
Okay.
It was 37-21, and Kareem Hunt had 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Sure.
I think
we're talking
Kareem
Hunt from the Chiefs.
Yep. I think Kareem Hunt's on
Yeah.
our side now. So
Last time I checked,
He said this
You'd
one's
be correct.
personal.
and he said
He
this one
did.
is personal.
Man.
It's like MJ.
And then we were talking about earlier with, was it Sammy Watkins? Who was the one that
Sammy Watkins put some bulletin board material up there.
Put the fuel on with okay, and it might not be a challenge now on Twitter. So
maybe we could put Kareem Hunt on the MJ. And I took that personally.
Who was the meme this week that was put on? I think it was just a bunch of Browns guys.
I think it was the logo.
I think it was.
Then it was Baker.
They put the helmet on him. They put the helmet on the MJ there.
I don't know if you saw this, but you might have. They put Juwan Howard's face on there.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, after Wisconsin?
Yeah. So Michigan hasn't played anybody, and I took that personally.
Juwan's a stud.
Anyway.
He's a character, dude.
How?
Anyway.
We'll get to that later.
Making my pick here, I'm gonna go with Chiefs, obviously.
Chiefs, fine.
Even though
I know
my heart pick is the Browns.
Picking here.
Brain pick is the Chiefs.
Picking here. I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. Yep. And honestly, I hate to say it, Drew, I'm going Chiefs big. I think Chiefs. I think like right now, obviously they're the popular pick, but the Browns. There are some people that are like, wait a minute, this Browns team is actually legit. I think this is the game the Chiefs come out, and they show that like guys like. We are the Chiefs. We are dominant. We're coming off the Super Bowl run, and we're not going anywhere. I think they blow. I don't say blowout. I'm saying it's a 2 or 3 score game.
I just want to let you guys both know, if the Browns lose, you won't hear from me. If the Chiefs,
it's kind of scary.
If the Chiefs lose,
you all right?
You still won't hear from me because I'm going to turn my phone off again.
I tried to FaceTime this guy in the first or second quarter because I'm like, oh, Drew's got to be loving this.
Right.
Goes right to voicemail. I was like, this son of a.
Yep. I'm going.
He's locked in.
0 dark 30 for the game. You've heard it here.
Kevin Stefanski and I both turned our phones off.
Before you go dark, let's get the pick.
I said the Browns are going to win.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow. You didn't.
Browns,
right?
Buffalo.
Okay.
That's what I want. That's what I'm going to get. I've been spot on this year. Nobody thought the Browns would make the playoffs. Nobody thought the Browns would beat the Steelers.
The party's not stopping. We said it earlier.
Stop until I walk in. I'm not walking in, baby. I'm gonna be on my phone. I'm not gonna be on my phone.
He said I'm walking.
I'm not walking in until after the Super Bowl, and then be like, oh shit, party keep going, baby.
That is awesome.
This is what I want to happen. Obviously,
great.
We'll go one game at a time. But when the Browns are picking at like 28-29 in the NFL draft, maybe 31-32. Ooh, just saying. I'm knocking on wood here. Obviously, if they don't, this is the best year of football I've ever watched. I've had so much fun just like watching them because everyone said they were going to be bad. It's like if the Lions were honestly in this point, you guys would be like, this is the best year ever. And so would I. I'm a Lions fan too. Like, you know, it'd be, I root for the Lions and Browns. Imagine telling that someone, they're like, wow, you're loyal. You are a loyal dog.
That's funny.
Wow.
So Browns
the
for
Lions,
you.
If the Lions were in this position, man.
Dude.
Be crazy.
Be a different conversation with Sully today. It would have been. But last thing here, we have the Buccaneers at the Saints. Talked a lot about this one today, obviously, with the guest line coming on. What do you think, Blaze?
I don't know. This is the toughest one, I think, because, you know, we were talking about this earlier, how it's hard to beat a team 2 times, let alone 3 times.
Yeah.
So I don't. For now, I'm just gonna say Saints.
I'm going to go with the Saints. And like I said earlier, I don't think they have to reinvent themselves. I think, you know, Drew's got some optimism around Tom Brady. I don't. And I think playoff Tom is a different breed. I don't think it matters. I think the Saints know exactly how to beat these guys. Sean Payton has done it twice, and he's got their number this year. I just think that is it. And the Saints have been the wall for the Buccaneers this year, and I think that continues.
So when Baker, me, and Tom Brady are on our island, and partying it up.
One island or 3 individually
owned?
No, we'll
be on one island.
Okay, good.
Because I'm picking the Bucks, and they can join my island because you 2 will not be invited to if they both win.
This is like a UFC Fight Island type?
No, this is a championship
island
right here.
Yeah.
This is
what?
This is you remember the NFL commercial? Remember the NFL commercial where Baker looks at Tom Brady and he goes, "Get in there, old man."
Yeah, Super Bowl 100.
Hold these.
Yeah, with the rings. That's great.
They were talking about this weekend, that conversation, like in 2 years from now, both of us are going to beat the Chiefs and the Saints and nobody's going to see it coming.
Wow.
That's exactly what they were talking about. Just watch.
Wow.
Bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Bucks.
Saints, if you look at the way the Bucks have played against them this year, it's not very good.
They scored 3 points last time they played.
But
They were saying the same thing about the
different
Browns and
situation now.
Steelers.
Playoffs.
Yeah.
And you have Tom Brady. He knows how the playoffs work.
Yeah, he does.
Wait, so Tom Brady's got what, 32 wins?
Not saying Drew Brees does not know how to play off.
You're right.
Oh, what?
But
Drew Brees, yeah, we've
could
seen.
show up differently.
I'm going to say, this is like, to say it's personal would be an understatement for Drew Brees in that New Orleans franchise.
I'm only saying this because they lost the last 2 times. It's different now for Tom Brady.
Are you changing your pick?
No.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's like if there was like a question, that would be it.
Okay.
You know,
That's
like
fair. That's fair. So we're locked.
The
Saints and the Bucks.
The wild card. kind of.
That's fair. Well, that's all we've got today for Division I Rejects. Wanted to say thank you if you're listening this far. I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself, I would say.
It is.
So thank you so much for listening. Like I said, per usual, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is the last video version of Division I Rejects for a while, and I'm going to head back up to school and do some audio. I'm sure.
Sad they're not going to be able to see my reaction next week when I'm coming to the Browns.
We'll put it up on the Twitter. We'll put it up on the Twitter at D1_Rejects. Follow us on Instagram at Division I Rejects.
Like a little FaceTime in.
We could.
Like the Pat McAfee show.
We'll see. But
speaking of which, Aaron Rodgers hosting Jeopardy. What do you guys think of that?
Oh boy, dude. I don't know.
A guest host. Obviously.
I think it's a little too soon. That's all I'm going to say.
He's going to be like the State Farm commercials. No Rodgers.
I can't take enough of those.
I think. All right. First off, Baker wins in the commercial game versus Mahomes, and he's about to win the game against Mahomes.
Jesus, but follow us on Instagram. Instagram passed 100 followers today. Division I Rejects, so that's kind of a big deal for us. But otherwise, just continue listening to the podcast. Appreciate all of you who made it this far, and everyone who listens and follows us on the socials. Thank you, and have a great weekend with some great football.